Okay, this is just one way we're going to practice how psychometricians, or the people who make tests and try to look for reliability and validity, how they try to establish estimates of reliability and validity. Now, we're going to use the vocabulary that we have just gone over about reliability and validity and draw the scatter plots, which would represent, right, graphs of the coefficients that psychometricians try to establish. Now, I'm going to name the axes, and you tell me what is the name of the type of reliability or validity that the psychometrician's trying to establish. What's it called when a psychometrician is comparing even questions on a test, or the even numbers on a test, with the odd questions on a test, or the numbers? Again, that would mean that people with a low score on the even numbers tend to have low on the odd, and people who score high on the even tend to score high on the odd. This would be a positive correlation. This is a 1, of course, the graph, but for our purposes, but even a 0.6 or 0.8 would be acceptable. If you guess split half reliability, you're right. So that's the first way to establish one type of reliability or consistency in a measure. All right, let's look at another type. What's it called when a psychometrician compares the score of one exam that a scorer gave it? So let's say somebody who's scoring or rating a test, and then has a second scorer grade the measure and compares how their scores match. Again, where scorer 1 gives a low score, scorer 2 tends to give a low score, and when scorer 1 gives a high, scorer 2 gives a high. What are these psychometricians trying to establish here? If you said inter-rater reliability, you're right. It's also sometimes called internal consistency. Again, because we're trying to get a match between what one grader or evaluator gives it and what the second one does. Okay, let's try a third type of reliability. What's it called when a psychometrician compares one version of the test, let's say Form A, to another version of the same exact test? Maybe we'll call it Form B, or even Form H. Again, so it's the same concepts, same kind of test, but different versions of it. If you guessed alternate form reliability, you're right. This is sometimes called equivalent form as well. All right, you're doing a great job. One more type of reliability that we'll go over here. What's it called when a psychometrician compares the first attempt that a subject or participant has with a survey or measure to their second attempt? So the first time they take a personality test or intelligence test or any kind of measure, and then they compare it with the second attempt. Remember, that means the first time someone scores low, they also tend to score low on the second. And this first time they score high, they also tend to score high. Somebody else scores high. If you guess that this is called test-retest reliability, you're right. And this is a great way to show, right, that a test is consistent. You keep getting the same score every time, whether you're somebody who scores low every time, or in the middle, or even high. All right, those were different kinds of reliability. Let's try some types of validity. What's it called when a psychometrician uses a test or measure, again, whether it's a personality test, an intelligence test, or even the AP psychology exam? So they use one measure or instrument, and let's say they compare it to a future behavior or performance. Did anyone guess what this is called? Let's say I have you take a test right now, and then, or maybe a survey, or I look at your course grade and then I predict something. If you guessed predictive validity, that is right. Now remember, predictive validity forecasts something in the future. So once you take this instrument or measure, it can predict this other criterion, this other thing that we're comparing it to. Remember, predictive validity is a type of criterion reference validity. The criterion is this other thing that we're comparing our measure or instrument to. So in predictive validity, we're comparing the instrument to something in the future, something that comes later after the exam or course grade is established. Okay, let's try another couple of types of validity. Let's say now I am comparing my instrument or measure to some behavior that is occurring right now. All right, if you guess concurrent validity, you're right. So this is another type of criterion reference validity, again, where one instrument or measure is being compared to a criterion or something else. And when you look at something at the same time that the test is being administered, that would be concurrent validity. All right, last example that we'll do. What is a psychometrician looking for? What are they trying to establish? Let's say if they're comparing one similar test concept. Let's say we'll call it gratitude with another concept that is similar, or a second similar concept. Let's say positive affect, or when you have a positive emotional state. Psychometricians do tend to think these are related, and if somebody scores low on a gratitude test, they tend to score low on a positive affect test, and if they score high on a gratitude test, they tend to score high on a positive affect test. This can show you that you have a really good instrument, at least that you have defined it well, if it matches with similar concepts. Did anybody guess this one? This is called convergent validity. And this really helps psychometricians establish another kind of validity called construct validity. Again, because construct validity is how did you operationalize this concept? And by showing that your measure matches something that's similar, you have probably established a great definition, or at least that's one piece of evidence that you could use to show you've created a good test. Okay, hope this helped.